Hey, this is Bauer, and I'd like to welcome you to this video called Clearing Negative Emotions, a Simpler Way. As we talk about how stress affects our mind and our body, one thing that it does is it lowers our vibrational energy. In other words, it changes our mood. As stress builds up, it begins to move throughout the body through what we call emotions. When we feel emotions, they begin to run automatically, in some cases, in our subconscious. When that begins to happen, you've got a pattern. And when that pattern begins to build, it begins to drain energy. When our energy begins to drain, you begin to feel that. At first, if you don't notice the emotion itself, if it's a life-depleting emotion, we'll talk about that in just a moment, you'll begin to feel at least a shift in your energy. Now, as we go through this video, you'll see more and more of what I mean here and why this is so important to pay attention to your emotions and to pay attention to how you're feeling on the inside, because the body is always sending us signals. So let's talk about some examples of life-depleting emotions. Anger, fear, grief, guilt, disappointment, frustration, scarcity, overwhelm. The key to this slide is that all of these emotions are all life depleting, and that's the key word, because whenever we feel these energies, these emotions, it literally begins to deplete our life force energy. Now, why is that important? Because if you want to have energy, if you want to move forward in life, if you want to create your dreams, your goals, your intentions, to have these emotions pulling on you actually takes away from you creating what you want and having what you want and being satisfied or content with what you want. In other words, being happy. So these subconscious emotions often continue over time, and they create like energies in our lives. They create attractor fields, so to speak. Uninterrupted, they begin to fester. And in time, if they continue to fester, they create health issues, prosperity issues, relationship problems, self-image and self-confidence issues, and much, much more. Now, the key to solving this is accessing this thing we call the emotional brain. And I know you've heard me talk about this before, but this is so well worth discussing and repeating. Because when you understand that the emotional brain is the part of us that helps process issues beyond what the mind can handle, and it handles what we call overwhelm points. In other words, when you hit the wall in terms of what you can handle, when those stressors that we talked about before begin to get so high and they mount up so much that you then on the inside feel overwhelmed. You just can't handle anymore. And now what the emotional brain does is it stores that stress, those stressors in your cellular memory because your mind doesn't know how to handle it all. And this part of you, deep inside of the brain, the emotional limbic brain, takes it over and stores it in what's called cellular memory. We'll talk more about cellular memory in just a bit. So let's talk about something I call negative reinforced memories. When thoughts are reinforced over time that are negative thoughts, negative feelings, they begin to drain your emotional, your physical, and your spiritual energies. That's why I call them negative reinforced memories, because the key to that phrase is the reinforcement. One negative situation in your life doesn't drain you. It doesn't necessarily take you down or cause you any heartache or challenge. But reinforced energies begin to drain your life force. They begin to cause you aches in the body. They begin to drain how you feel, take your energy away. And they're habitual and they're subconscious. In other words, they are repeatedly running in the background, quite often 24/7, without you even knowing it. Now, here's a real key. Many years ago, I had found a report that stated that your unconscious is making over 90% of your everyday decisions. That one made me stand up and notice, and of course, all the people that I've ever shared that with, because whether you like it or not, your unconscious is creating and doing most of the decision making for you. Now, that's a good thing, because there's something I call PRMs, positive reinforced memories. PRMs carry out the things you want. Those are the things that make you feel good. There's the part of you that is, in essence, infinite, and it takes care of all the stuff you never have to think of even doing, and you don't have to process the energy. That means your heartbeat, that means your digestive system, that means all the systems of your body. 90% of the time, it's done without even thinking about it or accessing your mind or your conscious mind to do anything in terms of decision making. But NRMs, they actually block what you want. So there's a big difference there. PRMs are things that carry out what you want. Negative reinforced memories block what you want. So why are NRMs so hard to clear? First of all, we're not aware of them. If you're not aware of something, how would you know that it even needs to be cleared? And the next thing is that they're into the cellular memory like we just talked about before, not just in the brain. In other words, cellular memory is scattered out throughout your whole body. When a negative energy occurs in our life, in our system, in our experience, and we can't handle it, we reach those overwhelm points that we talked about before. They are deposited in the cells of our bodies, in other words, in cellular memory. And as Candace Pert, one of the great experts in the mind-body connection, she says it this way: the subconscious is the body. In other words, your subconscious is all the mind energy that is scattered throughout the body, all the way down to your toes, all the way to the top of your head. That's good because in many ways it has this incredible infinite awareness of how to process life itself. Once in a while, we get tripped up. So why does the unconscious always win? That's a statement that I read many years ago. And we'll talk about that as we go. Conscious thought is when you are self-directed, when you say to yourself, I'm going to do this. My intent is to carry forward my goal, my ambition, whatever it might be. Unconscious thought is the stuff that's underneath the surface. And occasionally, if they conflict, guess what part wins? The unconscious. The reason why is because it's history, it's based on emotion. Those negative reinforced memories are embedded in there, and they're deeper than your conscious awareness more often than not. And at least 90% of the time, we're not even aware of why we make the decisions that we make. So in essence, there's no lasting healing. In other words, no lasting shifts or transformations without healing our NRMs on the inside. And the first part is awareness is the key. Once you begin to become at least aware of your own internal patterns, of your own results that are creating in your life that aren't the way you want them to be, just become aware. Whatever is shown the light becomes the light. It's just one of the most beautiful phrases we can ever know or understand. When you begin to shine some awareness on an issue, taking a nice deep breath and tuning into it and stepping back, suddenly the pattern is interrupted. And the good news is that your energy can change in an instant from a simple shift of intent. With this simple shift of intent, the pattern is interrupted and you can step back, you begin to breathe a little bit lighter, you begin to notice. Now, what's a good way to do this consistently? Well, nature herself has these secrets built into how she processes and the gifts that she provides to us on a daily basis. The author named Richard Louv talks about a cool concept called vitamin N. And vitamin N is nature. And it's the antidote for what is NDD, what is called nature deficit disorder. And it's a strange sounding symptom that we all have somewhere deep inside of us when we feel disconnected. When that disconnection occurs, you know it. You feel it. You just don't feel right. Your energy system feels out of whack. You feel tired. You feel drained. You feel stressed. And the more high-tech our lives become, the more nature we need to achieve natural balance, according to Richard Louv. And what is that energy? It's the energy of nature. It's the energy of connecting with that higher intelligence that we've discussed before. It helps us reconnect. It helps us get back in touch with who we are on the inside. And what's one of the best ways to do this? To clear cellular memory, to access the emotional brain, it's essential oils. And the reason why is because they specifically tune into the emotional brain that we've talked about before. They open up our energy, and they're the only reliable and consistent way to access this emotional brain on the inside of us so that we can clear the old issues going on that have been festering for years and years and years, and be able to come back to our true self, to come back to center, and to live life with peace, with intent, and with clarity. So be watching out for my next message, and we'll be talking a little bit more about how you can access essential oils and how you can harness their power to live life with more focus, more precision, more clarity, and more peace. Until then, aloha to you. Paul Bauer.